Here we go then. So we have a tinted clear, but this is in a base coat, so I guess, is it a tinted base? To be honest, I'm not sure what you call these. Some people are still calling them 3 stages, but I suppose it is technically a 3-stage. Anyway, we're applying the wet bed, the T490. This is just a transparent base coat, which helps me do my blends a little bit easier. I find using this a lot with the PPG system tends to help. So in this instance, I'm going to be using it for the blend on the metallic undercoat. The thing with these tinted clears is it's always the first stage. This is why I get confused. The first stage is like a tinted pearl or a tinted metallic, so it's kind of a pinky hue. You'll see it when it goes on. Whereas like a 3-stage pearl white, it's a solid white with a transparent pearl over the top, so it is a bit weird. I guess they're all 3 stages, to be fair. And you see, this is what I'm on about here. It's more of like a salmony red kind of colour. Don't forget all the little caps, bumper inserts and stuff. And you can see that there's kind of a pinky hue. Some cars are kind of worse than others. This, to be fair, this one's quite red. It was a little while ago since I sprayed this one. Kind of wing into the door, back door, blend into the front door and the quarter and all that good stuff. So you'll see here as well, I'm giving myself plenty of room to blend. I do see a lot of guys online, and they try and keep things small, which is good. But if you've got the room to do it, use the room to blend, to do what you need to do. You'll see here, I'm using the 1-visit modifier. And again, I'm a big Exalta guy, but I'm trying to put it on kind of like I would with the Exalta products, and it's not giving me the coverage that a one visit modifier would. I say that I don't know about the 1-visit modifier. I'm trying to spray it like it will go on in one coat in the 1 visit that it says, but it's just not happening. You'll see here I'm getting this wing pretty wet, and I've still got a coverage issue. So again, I'm using the primer that the paint scheme recommended to me. And you'll see I'm nipping around. I'm doing my blends here first while that wet bed's still wet. You can see it's starting to dry out a little bit with the heat in the booth. But you know, I'm not going crazy. I'm not knocking stuff over trying to get it done like super quick. It will stay open for a while. And I'm just trying to focus on getting that blend nice. And it's weird because you're spraying it onto a sort of the wrong colour. But then the colour fixes itself as you put the tinted clear over the top. So you are looking for that kind of uniform blend as it starts to fade into the old clear, the old tinted clear. And I tend to do this as well a lot. You'll see I'm doing the whole petrol cap there. If I'm doing blending into the quarter, and there's, you know, it's quite a small quarter, that one, it's easier for me to just do it that way rather than trying to match up the petrol cap afterwards, try and figure out the right orientation. Often it's not me that, if I'm painting this day, somebody else has prepped this car or whatever way around it goes. So if they put the petrol cap on upside down and I think that's the right way and I'm trying to sort of blend into it, I could end up doing it backwards, and then you put it on the car and just the petrol cap looks weird. So if I can and there's enough room, I will actually just paint the full petrol cap and just make sure I replicate that on the quarter. Just go all the way around the where the petrol cap sits. And you'll see here, nice sort of even passes. All the trims and all that good stuff as well. Edges. Again, these are sort of funny colours, so you don't want to be doing these twice if you can get away with it. Take your time a little bit, and just make sure you're getting everything covered. Have a little bit of chaos go on in this video later on. Just run out of paint, and then I don't mix enough up. And there's a little trick that you can get away with. If you're doing like your drop coat, your orientation coat, whatever you call it, you can actually put a little bit of that T490 back in, and it'll give the paint in there some body, although it's transparent, but you're still putting some colour out. So if you only need a little bit, you can use that to just sort of fix your drop coat and stuff like that, and get your effect coat looking right. But I tried it and it didn't work, so I had to run back out and mix a little bit more. And again, this is one of the things, adjusting to a new system, knowing what you can and can't get away with the coverage. I'm finding with the PPG I'm mixing more and more to do a bumper, whereas again Spies, Exalta, all those brands that have got that true one visit, you don't need that much, and I've got used to that way of working. And again, I've said this, I don't know if you guys go in the comments much, but I've said this in the comments, PPG is not a bad product. It sprays nicely, it's everything you'd expect from the paint. It's just, for whatever reason, I've been struggling with colour matches. Excuse me. In this sort of situation, it's ideal. They've given me plenty of room to blend. Although, I say that, I did ask for a blend on this wing, but the workshop foreman thought it was clever to ask me why I didn't want to blend the bonnet as well then, and because obviously he knows best, he's the painter. Asking me all these daft questions about, why do you need the wing? I was like, if we're doing that, basically that whole side of the car on the front bumper, I want the wing. And then he's saying, well, you need the bonnet as well then. Ideal world, yeah. Let's do the bonnet. Let's flick a little bit of paint around the bonnet, because if you look at the bumper, there's quite a large edge that does actually touch the bonnet. So we should, but that's not the way he said it to me. He was determined that I'm wrong, which is always nice when you're working in a place. And let's just come out of it as well. I've left here. I've left this place. It's not been fun for me. Attitudes like that. Some of the other painters have not been as helpful as I need, and yeah, it's not worked out for me. So I'm off to another place. But guess what they have? Spiezeka. So I'm a happy boy. I'm going to be back in my happy place. We'll see how they feel about maybe let me record a couple of videos. Again, I'm not here to... This is the thing as well with some of these companies. I'd love them to sort of understand. I'm not showing off any industry secrets. I'm not trying to show off your customers' cars or whoever's... everybody's worried about, what if they steal the registration number and they I don't know, whatever a criminal will do with a registration number. But they're not that desperate that they're going to scroll up and down YouTube to find a red Ford Puma to get the license plate off of it. There's probably plenty of them out there on the road. They can just take a number plate off. It's not hard. I imagine you could probably just go straight onto Auto Trader and steal one that way. It's not difficult. So I'm not trying to give any secrets away here. I just want to help people. And I do like doing it. I do like doing the YouTube videos, and I find as well, I've been painting for so long, I'm a bit of a robot. Whereas when I'm filming a video, I've got to be a bit more switched on and just be conscious, because I'm going to present it to you guys, and I can't be giving you like bad information because I've not done it the right way. And you'll see that I was just using my PainTeX TrueColour colour matching torch. And that's when I noticed as well, it's not quite covered. On the camera it does look covered, but it just wasn't enough. And I think this is actually where I've put some of the wet bed into the cup here, just to help out with the... it didn't need a lot more. You see here, I'm just going over the edges where I thought that it would need it. A little bit behind the door as well. It's such an awkward job, this one. Some people were saying we should, on the workshop floor, we should paint the back of it and then put it back on the car and do it that way, and then the blends are going to be a little bit better and stuff. But it's putting the paint and the products in the gun twice. This car in, what? It depends. I was going to say, what other cars have we got on the shop floor that are red that we could chuck it in with? Maybe we could chuck the door in with a few bumpers and stuff. But doing a tinted clear sort of blow in on the back of the door while we're trying to, I don't know, paint a couple of bumpers or whatever, it doesn't make much sense. It's not quite how I would do it. I'm happy enough to do it off the car. I've done so many of them. I do get it. Like, again, I keep saying the American guys, they like to sort of blow in the door jambs and stuff like that and then put it back on the car and do it that way. And that's nice if you've got the time. But over here, we're just sort of paint monkeys. Get on with it. Faster. I mean, in this workshop, again, one of the reasons why I'm not there anymore, often we're painting cars that needed to go out that day. And like, look at this job, it's not practical. I don't think they were like that with this, but most of the cars, it was like, oh, well, it's only a quarter panel on the door, you know, you just got to fit up the door handle and get it gone. And yes, in theory, it's not that hard, but things happen in the workshop if the colour's not quite right, which we're struggling with. And again, not just me, a lot of the other painters here, like I say, they were always in and out of the booth with the torches trying to have a look. It's just not, it's not right to be trying to do that and get the car out the door the same day. It's not practical. You feel like you're always under the gun. Mistakes happen. I've had it no end of times in this workshop as well, where a bumper was damaged, going back on the car and touch up this and spray that. It's not the right environment to do these kind of jobs, and this is that nice little transition there. That was when I had to run out and fill the cut back up with actual paint. Again, you'll see I'm working on, get away from my own story there, working on little small areas where there's some bust throughs and they stay quite dark. They just needed that little extra bit of coverage. But again, if you put the tinted clear on here, although it's a tinted base, if you put that tinted colour on the top and you've not got full coverage, you're not going to be able to hide that with the tinted clear. It is a transparent paint with like a transparent red and maybe a touch of transparent brown or something in there, just to give it that little bit of colour. But there's no coverage, so no matter how many coats that you put on, you're never going to cover those little bust throughs. That's why I'm going to town with the undercoat here, just making sure that it's all there, because again, this is not the sort of job that you want to do twice. They're not. You can blend them. I've done locals with tinted clears and 3-stage pearls and stuff. You can do it. It's just, again, when we've under the pressure that we're under to get these cars in and out, it might take me 10-15 minutes longer in here doing, you know, those extra checks and stuff. But I'm not going to have to do it again, which is again what everybody wants. It takes twice as long to paint it twice as it does to do it once and just do it a little bit slow. So all the fun of the circus. And you see here, I'm just making sure that orientation of the pearl there where it's going on is nice. You see these, I'm whipping the gun about quite a bit, but I'm not going full trigger on here. These are very, very light sort of, you can see it's not even really wetting up. I'm just getting the orientation. And then that way, as soon as it's dry, we can put the tinted base on there, and we can hit it with the clear coat over the top. And it's kind of a nice way to do it. Some of the other tinted clear videos I've done recently, just done the blue one. There was a blue Astra where it was a genuine tinted clear with the dye in the base coat, in the clear coat. Sorry. And with that, you put, usually they're 2 coats. So we put the 2 coats on. And then, because it's clear coat, you've got your flash offs and stuff, but then you have to put another coat of clear over the top. So you need to be careful that you're not putting too much on, whereas with it being a tinted base coat, you can let it dry and you can build up the layers, which is quite nice, to where it needs to be. But I find it can, if you're not careful, you can actually make the tinted clear a bit patchy, which is weird. I don't know. I suppose with the clear coat it makes a film, and base coat's only really going to make a big film if you're really wetting it up, but you don't want to do that with a tinted clear, because the wetter you put it on, the more it can sort of change colour, and it can darken up on the edges if you start to get like that sort of, call it picture framing or stamping, where you'll get a bit of a heavy edge on, like around a door. So you don't really want that. You've got to look out for it, but it's quite nice in the base coat. Just because it has that level of, not forgiveness, but it's a bit more forgiving. So you see here the tinted clear, or the tinted base, and I'm just going to do the same thing but slightly further. I'm going to carry on with my blend, but I'm not going to go to the end. I don't want to get into where it meets the door, and I'm not worried about wet bed in this situation either, because this is just basically the wet bed with a little bit of red in it. So I'm not really going to get any sort of dry spray or stand up with this product. So, and I don't know if you guys know that's kind of what the wet bed's for. If you're flicking like a metallic or a pearl down halfway across a door or quarter panel or something like that, if you've got the wet bed, the metallics and the pearls within the sort of the overspray are going to land on top of the wet bed, and as it dries it'll be nice and uniform. Whereas if that wet bed's not there, they just kind of land sort of semi-dry on the panel, and they don't lie down properly, and they sit funny. You end up with, some people call it sand piling or stand up or whatever, but you just get this rough area where the paint is, and some guys try and bury it in the clear. You can sort of bury it in the clear, but if you look closely at the paint, you can see that it's not sat correctly, like it looks weird. So, well, it's stood up, that's why we call it stand up, but I'll ramble on. So with the tinted base coat here, it's nice and easy. You can see I'm not going mental. I'm not trying to overdo it. Again, that's what I was saying about making a film. You want it wet, but you don't want it too wet. And also, I've got the one visit modifier in here, which is why I'm going straight over it again. So this is the 2 coats that it requires, sort of done in 1 coat. And this is what I'd imagine like the one visit to be like. But just it's proving itself again and again within the base coats that it's not one visit. So I don't know. I was offered an opportunity to go back to Exouter and I bit the guy's arm off. Again, not that it's a bad product either, but when you're at somewhere and they're not as helpful as they can be, it's awkward. I don't know. I don't want to badmouth the place. It wasn't a bad place to work, but sometimes, although I'm a skilled painter, asking for help, you should be able to ask for help. And they were, I'm not saying that they weren't even helpful, but it was just like, well, pick one that looks right. Well, all right, but the screens show me one thing, and then I'm spraying it, and I'm getting a different thing. So what what am I doing wrong? And there wasn't really an answer for it, so that was frustrating. Yeah, a few little things. Yeah, I'll try and get away from that conversation in my own little head. But yeah, like, again, it wasn't a bad place to work. It was just, it wasn't for me. I didn't really fit in. Some people thought, and I don't know if this is a thing as well, being confident and being good. I remember the first couple of weeks that I was there, some of the boys were saying, "Wow, you're quick. You're good. You know what you're doing," kind of thing. And it wasn't. It's not a bad thing, but I don't know if some people just think, "Oh, who does he think he is?" And there is a lot of that there, not there, but out there in the industry itself. But I've worked in so many places. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying that there's so many dinosaurs out there that don't want to change and don't want to do things. I mean, if you can actually believe, when Trizacs came out, there was a lot of guys that hated using a Trizac pad. What do you mean we're going to use one of these? They cost so much money, and they, I can just polish over 1500 and I don't really need it and all. Like, times change. The spray gun torches, Luma go on about it all the time, how people hate on them and they don't really need a torch. And I wouldn't say I hated on them, but I do feel like you don't really need a torch. Until I came here. And you'll notice, actually, in this video, compared to the last ones, the booth walls have been done, so it does look a bit brighter. But it was a dungeon before, and the amount of time... Like, I've never had a torch, really, before. I did mess about when the torches first came out from Luma, and I put a... What do you call them? Like a headlamp. Elastic band with a torch that goes around your head for joggers or whatever. I put one of them on the PPS part, and it kind of helped slow down, and like I say, if it's a dark booth or whatever, but it wasn't really that advantageous, so I never thought to look out for one until I bumped into the guys at Walcom at a big show I was at this year, Auto Mechanica's body shop event, and I was talking to the guys there, and they're like, "Look, we're going to send you one. have a look at it, tell us what you think, you know, do a nice video or whatever, because it's got the GoPro mount and all that good stuff, so you can get some really good footage. And then when I came here, I was like, actually, I need this. And it's one of them things, just again getting back to the dinosaurs, give it a go. Have a look at it and not just be stuck in your ways. And I don't know, I'm going on some tirade here, but sometimes you need a bit of help. And I wasn't getting it. So it was one of them for me. Time to leave. You see here breaking out the old Porphis. Again, loads and loads and loads of comments about them. If you're down there in the comments, they are phenomenal. What you pay for, the money wise, they're basically I was going to say the cheapest gun out there with the best quality. They're not the cheapest. So this gun was like £200. So it's kind of middle of the road. It's not one of these dirt cheap things. But the build quality is phenomenal. This has been in a couple of shops now, been in different gun washes, different products gone through it. I've never had an issue with the fan pattern, like how it sprays. It's never spluttered on me. It's never ever let me down. All the internal workings, I think they're brass or machined aluminium, but they're all sort of like press fit machined parts so that they all fit together perfectly. As soon as you tighten it all down, nothing moves. It's great. There is one plastic, or it's probably more like nylon. It's a little bit like you get in the old Starter 5 55Xs. On the back of the fluid tip there is a little I don't even know what you would call it, like a little press filter that goes in the back. Not a filter, I ain't got the words for this. But yeah, that's the only part that could potentially sort of cause you any issue. But it's the same as the SATA. They do replacements for it. And again, Oli Paints had his in the gun wash for a week. I've had mine through multiple gun wash cycles. And you know, in this place we were painting sort of 5-6 jobs a day. So it's not let me down at all. I don't think it's going to let me down either. I'm not anticipating buying some spare parts for it at all. So yeah, I would highly recommend one. Also, we've got a discount code for it, 5% off if you use the code PainTeX, PainTeX, on the Porphis website. But yeah, phenomenal bit of kit, and it sprays lovely. So I'm a happy boy when I got this in my hand. It's been a bit of a weird video, hasn't it? Like, I always sort of think I should plan out what I've got to say and maybe actually have a chat about what I'm doing. But you guys out there know what we're doing, don't you? It's sort of base coat, clear coat. There's nothing too technical. What happened here? It's just, again, one of these things when you're blending a 3-stage or a tinted clear, you just need to make sure that the third stage goes further than the second, and then that way you're not leaving. The thing is, if the pearl coat or the metallic coat here goes further than the tinted clear, there's going to be a weird sort of halo. So if you can keep the pearl coat or the metallic coat small and then go past that with the tinted clear and then complete the panel with the clear coat like I'm doing here, you'll have a seamless sort of transition from the old paint to the new paint. It's one of these things where it being in the base coat, it lends itself a little bit better. It lends itself, I think it's probably easier for a beginner to do a tinted clear, whereas the more experienced guys, hands down, I would say it's much easier for me to do it within the clear coat. That's just my personal preference. It's a lot quicker. There's not a lot of mucking about with different base coat guns and things like that. Although, to be honest, I use 2 clear coat guns when I'm doing it. But And that's just one of them things I like. Some people are put off by it. One of the lads here, he'd never done it before. We did end up doing like a 46V sort of front bumper and blend the wings. But it's straightforward. If you can do a normal sort of 3-stage pearl job, you can do one of these. It's not difficult at all. It's exactly the same principle, but you put the metallic on and the solid colour on second. So yeah, loads of fun. Bit of a big job this one as well, which is nice. And that's one of the things in the crash repair. You get to do a lot more of the prepping and sort of new panels. Seam sealer, God, some of the seam sealer I was doing in here. It's a weird one because I'd been away from it for a while. Again, if you go back through my videos, I've got some big old 3D printed structures on there, and like a huge, probably what, 6'7" Aquaman 3D print that I painted, and just some cool stuff. And I got away from doing sort of car repairs. And some of the guys will know there's D-Fleet. I've been talking to a couple of guys that are D-Fleet in the comments as well. And there's crash repair. So in the D-Fleet, you don't really get a lot of, especially, usually the painter just paints, the preppers will just prep and the body guys will do the body work. But in here, the body guys will do the work and they send it over to you, and then you've got to look at, if that's a new quarter panel, it needs sealing up, it needs like the little spot welds and stuff need to be not visible, but when they fill them and stuff like that, they kind of hide the fact that they've had to spot weld it together and it doesn't look OEM, but we have to make it look OEM. So there's a nice little tip that you can do in your primer with if you get a nice sort of old school pencil with a rubber on the end. If you just keep that rubber nice and you just punch that in the wet primer every sort of 2 inches down like a door jamb, you can replicate where the spot welds were, and it just has that sort of OEM look. It doesn't look like it's had a quarter panel ripped off and a new one put on and all that good stuff. So there's a few good little tricks, but it's things that I've forgot over the years of coming away from the insurance side of things and doing other stuff. And I don't know, this place has kind of left me with a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth for the crash repair work. Me and my mate were talking about this the other day. I like the fact that I get to do prepping and all that sort of stuff, but places like here, I wasn't painting over my own prep. It was somebody else and I was prepping for them, which is fine, but these jobs, you can do your job, and if you're prepping and painting and polishing your own work, that's great, because you really do learn about how to, repair cars properly, which is good. But in the D-Fleet situation where I'm just in the booth all day, that's kind of my happy place. The very first job that I ever did with cars was that kind of work. So the painter just painted, and eventually when I became sort of skilled enough to be able to be in the booth all day, that's kind of where they left me, which is good. I enjoy it. Again, I'm a bit of a robot, so I like to put headphones in. You'll often hear me whistling and singing and all that stuff in the background of these videos. I do try and keep it quiet because it's quite off-putting. But yeah, that's kind of my happy place. That's what I enjoy. And I do love it when people think that it's dead easy because you just wave your hand in front of the panel and it looks great. But I always joke that we're taking, if you look in that PPS pot, I'm taking a liquid, turning it into like a vapor or a gas. I wouldn't say a gas, I'm not sure what you would even call that. When you atomize that liquid and then you turn it back into a solid on the panel, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Don't get me wrong, it's not the hardest either. Like a bit of, I feel like I could teach anyone in a week how to do a nice finish, but it's all the things that come along with it, all the reactions and silicons and runs and dry spots, and what do you do if this happens and what do you do if that happens. That's where you become a really good painter. one of them ones where you need to you do need to be switched on, but if you've got, I like to have like a routine. You'll notice here, I start at one side of the car, the same place on the same panel every time, and I follow my way around the car, and I just have that routine built in, and I stick to it because I know it works. I always do bottom of the door up, you sort of spray cars from the bottom upwards, out of habit. I never used to do that, but I used to have. I remember this one place where I was working, and they were like, "Look, your jobs are nice. They're pretty clean. You get a nice finish, but every time they got to the bottom of the doors or the lower half of the car, they'd be quite orange peely." And you'll see here, I'm checking for it. I've got that sort of PTSD of this place. But every time I got to the bottom of the door, it was peely, and they were like, "Our polishers are having to, break out 1,500 discs and sand it all smooth and then Trizac it all." And they're like, "If you could get the bottom of the door to look like the top of the door, we wouldn't be having to work that hard," and things like that. And all that I found was, when I was clearing the door top down, I'd speed up a little bit at the bottom for no other reason than, this is nearly finished maybe. So I just took some advice from a painter there, and he said, "Well, why don't you try going from the bottom up, and then you can." And I've always preferred it because you can kind of look over the top of the wet edge, and you can see that it's wet enough as it comes up the door. And I haven't changed. I found that worked for me. I changed it at this place. Everybody was happy. They were like, "Brilliant, these jobs are really clean." The level of the orange peel and all that stuff's super consistent, and it's not excessive either. It's like a factory peel. And like it's those things from these places that turned me into a good painter. And it's, I suppose, here's me going back on myself about being like a dinosaur. I found what works and I hold on to it, but I'm not afraid of, again, like people complaining about Trizacs. Like, what the hell? Trizac's phenomenal. I do think sometimes it's a bit silly. I remember joking about that they brought out an 8,000 Trizac. Like, who's going that far? But, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. The first time I ever used a 6,000 Trizac on a black car, I was like, right, I want a box of these. And it's that good. So I'm imagining the 8. I've never used an 8,000 yet. But, yeah, I'll happily buy them. They're probably about 50 quid a box as well. But it's one of those things. I'm not going to be afraid to change. If somebody says to me, "Oh, well, why don't you try doing it this way?" then I'll give it a go. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, I'll go back to what I've always done. But it's, not being afraid to change, not being afraid to try something different. So I'm super grateful if you've listened to me just ramble on about my life and how I'm not at this place anymore, and I'm having to go back to Exalta because it's the best. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Here's a little close-up of the finished job. I mean, it has come out well. PPG is good stuff, but I'm an Exalta guy, I guess. See you in the next one.